Welcome! My name is Debbie and this is Pouring My Art Out for the Lord. And we're going to continue in our Sparrows and Lilies series today. First of all, I want to thank you for returning to the series. Thank you for all your positive encouragement about this series. I pray that you've been blessed by this so far. I pray you've been blessed by doing the activities that I leave you with each time. So week 4 printable is on my coffee shop, so go pick that up if you haven't already. I'm going to show you, after I do share a few thoughts, I'm going to show you how to make a cover. So this is the cover that I will show you how to make. We're using a file folder and the printables here. And then here is the page that I have for this time. I added more to it, so I printed it out separately for myself here. But there's a little trifold kind of thing here that I'll show you what I'm going to do with. Here's our card that I'm going to ink and sew around as usual. And here are some just little tiny embellishments that we can use in our journal. I just wanted to also say that I have a little group over on my coffee shop. It's called the Inspired Junk Journalers. So we do junk journaling, but we add an inspiration from the Lord to our junk journals in the form of our faith or God's word in some form. So we do Bible study in conjunction with making a Bible journal or a junk journal to document what we're doing. So it's similar to this project, except we go into much more depth. We have more extensive printables. In the past, I've been doing probably about 100 printables a month. And we go into a lot more depth into study. The projects run for 3 months. There's a blurb on it on YouTube that you can go check it out if you're interested in more details. But so April, May, June, and the membership opens only once every 3 months. So it's opening again on April 1st to April 5th. I wanted to mention it because there's some people that don't see it in time, and then they wish they could have been a part of it. So if you're interested in that April 1st to April 5th, go check on my coffee shop membership and you can see all about that. And the other thing I wanted to mention about the membership group as well is that all of these coffee printables are going to be available as a part of that membership. So if you missed anything, they will all be available for free on the membership group. So if you're a member, you don't have to worry about making sure that you get it in the week that I put it out, because they will have them all available to them all the time. So I just wanted to mention those couple of things. And just like last week, I'm going to cut out my printables and then I will share some thoughts while I'm doing that. And then after that, I will show you how to put together this cover. So here we go. So first of all, I want to make a distinction between concern and anxiety. There is a place for biblical, godly concern. And this type of concern is not sinful. So if you find yourself wondering if you can be anxious or concerned, about anything, there is a time that, and there's a distinction, but there is a time for godly concern. If you look at Philippians 2:20, Paul is talking about Timothy and bringing Timothy, sending for Timothy, and he said, "For I, Paul, have no one like him, Timothy, who would be genuinely concerned for your welfare." So he's saying that he wants somebody who is concerned for their welfare. That's a good thing. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that distinction, and we're going to see now, we're going to ask some more questions and see if what we're feeling is truly sinful anxiety, or perhaps it's just concern, godly concern. But anxiety is different than concern. So to get to the root of our anxiety and to discover whether it has sinful roots, we can ask ourselves, what are we really thinking when we are overcome with anxiety? So we read, we hear, we know what God is promising us, but we doubt whether he will actually do what he says. And sometimes we have to dig a little bit to get to that point, because on the surface we just think that we're trusting. But when we're overcome with anxiety, it might be because we don't really deep down believe God. And that is a sin of unbelief. We might not think he's able to do what he says. He's not able to do what he says. So that's not believing that God is sovereign and almighty or all-powerful or omnipotent, because we don't really know if he's able to do it. Maybe we think he doesn't really care about those little things. It's just a little thing to him, but they mean a lot to us. So that's not believing in God's love and care for us, because he does care about those little things. Maybe we think he doesn't really know how much those things mean to us. Sometimes we think, maybe God has other things to do, and, I know he really wants us to focus on this, and but that's not believing maybe that God knows everything. He's omniscient. He knows everything. He knows how much those things mean to us, even if we see them as something that maybe is not a spiritual thing, something that's not something that we think we need to concern God with or whatever. Sometimes, and I think I find myself in this camp from time to time, is that we don't think he agrees what is best for us. Sometimes we think we really do need that thing, but I don't know if God really knows I really, really need that thing, or I really, really want that thing because of this. It's when you say it out loud, it's ridiculous, but do we sometimes not believe that he knows, or that he agrees with us what we think is best for us? And maybe that's the sin of believing that God is all wise, or not believing that God is all wise. He knows everything. He's all wise. He's wisdom itself. So he knows what's best for us. He knows what's best for us better than we know what's best for us. So I want you to just take those things one by one, and especially when you're feeling kind of overwhelmed with anxiety, or think of a time when you were overwhelmed with anxiety, and see if you can kind of trace what you are feeling, whether you're doubting God's sovereignty, doubting his love, doubting his wisdom, one of those things, and see, the sin behind that. See the sin of not believing in God's perfect love, or God's perfect wisdom, or God's perfect omnipotence. Or maybe you can discover something else different than those things I've mentioned. But the root of sinful anxiety is sinful unbelief in one of those ways. And in some way we doubt the power, the love, and the wisdom of God. So after you've spent a little time thinking about the root of your anxiety and what you might be doubting about God as a result, then think about what God promises in his word that would counteract that doubt. Because there's going to be a promise that God makes that will dispel that doubt. And then ask yourself if you truly deep down believe that promise. And then if you say, yes, I believe that promise, I know that's true, ask yourself if your thoughts and actions when you're anxious actually prove that you do believe that promise deep down. And maybe that'll come, maybe that'll show you some areas where you can reflect on God's promises. You can find a promise in Scripture that will counteract that doubt. And that might be something that you can reflect on. And maybe that'll help you the next time that you get into that anxious feeling. So I'm just going to leave you with that for now. It's a quicker little meditation today because I want to talk about how to put together the cover. But you can make some notes for your journal, and we'll see you back next week. Blessings. Well, I want to show you how to make the cover. So I have this page in your printables, and this is our title page, or our cover page rather. And we're going to make a cover for our journal next. So what I want you to do is, if you print this out, I want you to cut it in half. If you print it borderless, then this will be 11 inches wide, and half of 11 inches will be 5.5. If you can't print borderless, I want you to probably just fold it in half, whatever your paper is, and then trim off any white edges that you have, so that you'll always have it in half, if that makes sense. So I'm going to trim mine. I know mine is 11 inches, so I'm going to trim mine at 5.5 inches, and that will be exactly in half. Just like that, 2 halves, so the front cover and the back cover. And then I want you to take a file folder. You can do this different ways. If you have your own preferred method of making a cover, go ahead and do that. But for those who haven't made a journal before, I thought this would be one of the easiest ways we could do this. So pretty much everybody has a file folder, I hope. If not, I think the dollar store has packages for $1 or whatever. So you could maybe pick one up there. It doesn't matter if it's used, if it has something here, because we're not going to use that part. So if you have a used file folder, that is perfect. You can just do the same thing with cardstock or whatever, but I'm going to show you how to do it using the file folder. So what I want to do first of all is I want to cut the height, and the height I want to be 6 inches. So I'm just going to put this on my cutter like here, and I'm going, did I say 6 inches? I meant 9 inches. I might have said 6. I want it to be 9 inches high. So we line that up on 9 inches and we cut that off. So we don't need this for this project. So we have this to be 9 inches high. So our cover is going to fit like this, and there's going to be a 1/4 inch border at the top and at the bottom. And then I want you to cut, if your file folder looks like this, which means I have the fold lines on the front. You might have the fold lines in the back. You might have some in the front and some in the back. What we need is one of those fold lines, because we're going to make a 1/4 inch gusset for our cover. So it doesn't matter if they're on the front, the back, or on both sides at this point. What I want you to do is I want you to do a cut at 6 1/4 inches. So this cutter does not actually show 6 1/4 very well. Let me just make a pencil mark on mine just to make sure I get the line at the right spot. 6 1/4. So I want you to cut that at 6 1/4 inches. Like that, and this we're not going to use for this project either. So now we have our cover piece again. So then wherever you have your perforations, I want you to fold so that you have, you fold on the first perforation, which should be a 1/4 inch from the edge. If you don't have that fold line, you can just score a 1/4 inch from the center. So I'm going to just fold on that edge. I think. Just take a minute to get it started here. There we go. So now you should have your original fold, and then you should have another fold 1/4 of an inch away, either on the front or the back, wherever your perforations are. So now you have this 1/4 inch spine for your book. Now, depending on which way you took that 1/4 inch off, you will have one side that is longer than the other. And in my case, it's on the back because I folded it towards the front. So if I have it on this fold, they're equal. If I pull this back and make my spine, then the back will be 1/4 inch wider. So hopefully that will make sense. So I'm just going to cut off that extra 1/4 of an inch because I don't need it. And we can throw that piece away. So now what you should have is a piece like this. So from the back to the fold line, it should be 6 inches. And then there's a 1/4 inch spine. And then from, if we shift this over, from the other edge of the spine to the edge of the cover is 6 inches. So it should be 6, 1/4, and 6. Don't get confused with these other lines that we're not folding on. So if you fold it like this now, it should look like an even book. The sides are all even. There's not one side that's longer. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to explain it as easy as I think I can, just so that everyone can understand it. And then we want to just glue these two pieces onto our cover and make our cover. Now, if you like, you can use a little bit of ink. I'm just using Distress Vintage Photo ink. I like to do a little bit of ink around the edges of my projects. So I'm just going to put a little bit of ink around the front and the back cover here. If this is old hat to you, you might want to just fast forward through this, but I know we have some new people following this series, so I thought I would just do this in slow motion if people want to see this part. So just doing a very little light layer of this ink here. And this is optional. You don't have to do this part. There we go. And then you want to glue or tape these on here. So if you see your spine here, you want it to be, well, I'm just going to ink my spine just so you can really clearly see where my spine is, because I've got those extra fold marks on my file folder, and I just don't want you to get confused on where my lines are. Okay. So now we have, I'm just going to put this extra piece on the back. So we have a spine line here and a spine line here. So what we want to do is we want to center this on this page. So we're going to have a little bit of a border at the top and the bottom, and it should be pretty close to even on the top and the bottom, and pretty close to even on the two edges here. So right side up to the spine, top and bottom. So I'm just going to use, this is just an older tape scrapbook thing that I've had for many years, but you can just use a piece of tape, whatever you like. You can also use a glue stick, and that would be a great way to glue this on as well. If you use a glue stick that isn't very strong, what I would do is just at the corners and maybe a couple of times on each side, I would just dot a little bit of glue here. Especially at the corners, you don't want your corners coming up. So we'll just got my tape and I got my glue, and I'm just going to center this on my page. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just as good as you can. Okay. There's one side, and I'll just repeat that with the back. There. So, gotta clean my mat here. It's getting a little full of glue and stuff. This is what it's going to look like, and I didn't mention, but this this cover I just printed on regular, a little bit heavier copy paper, 32-pound copy paper. I don't need the cardstock for here because I've got the thickness with the manila cardstock. So the other thing I'm just going to do with my cover is I'm going to ink around all of these edges around the outside. I think what I'm actually going to do as well is I'm gonna, if you have a corner puncher, if you don't worry about it. If you have a corner puncher, you might want to round the corners of this file folder, just because, you know, if you're putting this book in and out of places and stuff, it can get a little dinged up on the corners, and if you round the corners, that'll just help. So I'm just going to ink all of my edges, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Then we want to take our other digital that we have, and we want to use that for our inside of our cover. So again, I want you to cut it in half. So 5.5 inches if you're printing borderless, otherwise fold it in half and cut it along the fold line, and then trim off the white spaces. I'm just going to ink the edges of this a little bit. When you're inking edges of paper, when it's thinner, sometimes it's easier to use 2 pieces together. It just adds a little extra thickness, so it's easier to ink. All right, so I got my 2 pieces inked. And then I want to turn my cover over, and I want to glue these onto here, just like I did on my front. I'm going to ink my spine on this side, just so you can see more easily where my spine is. And make sure you have it right side up. And then you just want to glue one piece here and one piece here, and then ink around those edges. So I'm just going to do that, and I'll be right back. I got those glued on, I got them inked. You can see mine are not perfect, which is totally fine. Once you get everything in there, you're not going to even notice that. But there's the cover, all done. So next time we will put some pages in here. I'll show you how to sew in these pages very easily. And we'll put some pockets and stuff in here, and then we'll start adding our pieces that we've accumulated, and we'll accumulate a few more pieces again after this, and that's what we will do. So blessings, we'll see you next week.